This conference will now be recorded.
Mr. Harvey joined the call, Madam Mayor. He's here.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good
Okay.
evening.
All right, I can see you. I can't wait for next year, and hopefully we'll be able to do this live and in person and be able to touch each other. Okay, so all I can say today is good evening, welcome to Let's Talk Taxes with Hazel Rogers, your mayor of the We Care City of Lauderdale Lakes. And let me at this time recognize my colleague who is on the line, Beverly Williams, Commissioner Beverly Williams, and President of the Broward Legal Cities. Commissioner, welcome.
Thank you.
Right, and of course, all of our participants greatly appreciate the time that you're going to spend with us today within the walls of the City of Lauderdale Lakes. Yes, extended beyond our boundaries as we share with our community. This is the time I would say to everyone that we must prepare to do our taxes, not on April 15th. Everything must be done by December 31st of 2021. So at this time, let me introduce our moderators, starting with the lady, of course, Dr. Nethel Stevens, the Economic Development Advisory Board Chairperson for the City of Lauderdale Lakes. And she's just awesome and truly loves businesses and always engaging with our business. So thank you, Dr. Nethel, for joining and being our moderator for this evening. And Mr. Glenn Joseph, he is the chair and he's the president of Monroe. Also, he's the chair of the Greater Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and the Greater Caribbean American Cultural Coalition. And of course, the chamber is tri-county wide, and we have relationships all over the counties locally. So thank you, Mr. Joseph, for being our moderator for this evening, along with Dr. Nethel. So I will, at this time, just say to everyone, looking forward to this conversation. And of course, we have to close us out this evening. We'll have Elian Fernandez from SBA, so you'll get an update as to where we are with our loan applications. And of course, bragging on Lauderdale Lakes and what we're doing with our businesses will be Ms. Vielka Buchanan from our Economic Development Director for the City of Lauderdale Lakes. So to everyone, welcome and let's chat.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Let's Talk Taxes. My name, of course, is Glenn Joseph, and along with Dr. Nethel Stevens, we will be your moderators for the evening. Small businesses are the engine, or I should say collectively, they are the engine of the economy for this country and for all of our important actions. We turn to our small businesses because they are right at hand. This workshop was intended to provide for them an opportunity to have at their disposal 3 CPAs and someone from the U.S. Small Business Administration. So they're going to provide you with the information that is necessary to keep your business online and growing from strength to strength. The first presenter this evening is no stranger to those of us who know him. And those of us who don't, he is a CPA and the managing member of HCT, Certified Public Accountants and Consultants. Mr. Harvey has been practicing for many, many years and has a wealth of experience and is a very energetic speaker. So you are in for a treat when he takes the microphone, which I'm going to pass to him now. Roderick, the mic is yours.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. So happy that we all could participate together. I also want to say good day and thank you to my mayor and the elected officials who have put forward this opportunity to share information. A little bit about me, CPA. I've been doing this for a while, and so I'm happy to share some knowledge with what businesses should be thinking about and what you should be doing with these last 2 weeks that's remaining. And so thank you to our hosts, thank you to staff, and looking forward to an engaging and informative discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Harvey and Mr. Glenn. Our next speaker was so excited. I'm Nathel Stevens, and I'm the chair of the Economic Development Board for the great We Care City of Lauderdale Lakes. And it's an honor because part of working with the Economic Development Board deals with business retention and expansion, and workshops like Let's Talk Taxes help empower our small businesses. So our next speaker is none other than Alicia Dunbar from Dunbar, Dacrist, and Dunbar Tax Services. Alicia is a graduate of Plantation High School, after which she attended Broward College and Florida Atlantic University, where she received her Bachelor's of Arts in Business Administration with a concentration in accounting. She is a certified public accountant in the state of Florida since 1999, and she has part ownership in the accounting firm and the tax service, Dacrist and Dunbar. So, Alicia?
Hello, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everyone. I'm glad I'm here, a part of this forum, to be able to give information where we, as accountants, have found it. I know 2020, 2021 was a difficult year for us because of all the changes that has been happening in society. And if we, as accountants, could hardly keep up with what was going on, I know the business owners definitely couldn't also. So I'm glad that we have the opportunity to share what we have learned for this season.
The next presenter online is Anthony Brunson, CPA, who is the CEO of Anthony Brunson Cpa. Tony, affectionately called Tony. Tony Brunson CPA is a 35-year public accounting veteran and South Florida native. He heads a team whose skill set operates with the highest level of integrity and wisdom as they strive to exceed their clients' expectations. Tony has a vast range of experiences being auditors for municipalities and counties. And so, Nathel, you will introduce the next person, and then we will have the presenters begin.
All right, our final presenter for tonight is none other than Miss Aileen Fernandez. She is the Outreach and Marketing Specialist for the South Florida District Office of the U.S. Small Business Administration. Aileen joined the South Florida U.S. Small Business Administration, which is the SBA, team in May of 2020 as the Outreach and Marketing Specialist. In a year and a half, she has worn
Hello, she froze.
I believe we
from
lost.
many access different hats, from special detail with the Office of Capital Act focusing on contact EIDL inquiries, including congressional inquiries for the South Florida District to Public Affairs for SBA. She served 8 years as a district director for the United States Senator and is fully bilingual. So we're so excited.
Thanks, Nicole. All right, let's get down to business now so that we could impart the information that we need to the people who need it. Roderick, the floor is yours. Unmute.
So good afternoon. What I would say to our small business owners is to consider a few things. And so we don't want to overwhelm you. One thing is, what should I be doing now, right? What's my next best step? And so I would suggest to business owners, look at your revenue, how much money have you made, and where are your expenses? And so how do you want to land in this business year? Do you need to show profit because you're in a growth stage, or are you minimizing or want to minimize your tax? One of the things that's important is to realize that planning for tax is no problem, but making changes afterwards is fraud. And so if you don't do it now, then you're locked in. And so what are some of those things we should consider? What is that next best step? Should I buy an asset now that I can depreciate, or ding, 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 take section 179 against, which allows me to reduce that asset, or should I be doing something different? And so these are the things that we think that folks should be thinking about and doing in these last couple weeks. Thank you.
Okay. The next presenter, Alicia.
Okay, for me, my thing is this: as small business owner, you need to be talking with your CPA right now. Definitely need to have that conversation of where you are and what you want to achieve. There are two things I recognize with us. One way, we want to save on taxes, but then we don't become bankable. So we have to make sure that we are in that sweet spot, should I say, and sometimes we miss the mark. So we have to make sure that we are talking with our CPAs right now, have a projection of what our estimated taxes is going to be for 2021 based on what has occurred so far during the year. Now, based upon your estimated taxes, you are now able to determine what is my next step. And unfortunately, it's not one size fits all. There are different dynamics within the tax code that everything is definitely personal. So everyone needs to have a personal conversation with their accountant right now to see exactly where you stand and see what is your best next move.
I'm calling my accountant right now.
All right, Tony.
Good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Tony Brunson. You know, for the, I don't want to be repetitive. We just like to encourage.
Tony, you have the floor.
We just like, for the lack of benefit of not being repetitive, that's what's been said before, just kind of take it globally. And I guess the overall theme is to plan. You know, now is the time to do your planning, tax planning, financial planning, you know, insurances, risk planning takes a part of that, where you create, for me, it's always a holistic overall plan for the best steps to go forward. So we just like to encourage all the third parties and guests to to take advantage of the CPAs and the information that's here from the Small Business Administration. I mean, there are a lot of benefits also through the American Rescue Plan that are still available through the small business that are windows are rapidly closing. So, you know, my theme is always, this is an investment in yourself. All individuals are different. All circumstances are different. So take the time to take advantage of some of the resources that are available to you now and invest in yourself. Thank you.
It's
Some of our small, go ahead, ma'am. Go ahead, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. You see, if I was in person, we would be making a lot of noise because we'd be applauding because that was sound advice just now.
We don't know the types of businesses who are online, but we have to take it for, we have to assume, although you should never assume, we have to propose that in attendance are nonprofit businesses. What are the preparation protocols for businesses, for-profit businesses, for nonprofit businesses, and the various pitfalls that they need to avoid? Anybody can answer.
Okay, one of the things that I have recognized that many companies are not taking full advantage of is the employee retention credit. That's a credit that is available to give, if for 2020, 50% of your payroll, you are getting that back as a tax refund if you are a small business, and also for nonprofit. It's not only limited to small businesses. So that's one aspect that I recognize that many companies are not definitely taking advantage of. And it also increased to $10,000 with a 70% in 2021. So if I was in that position, I would make sure that speak with someone to confirm if your company qualifies for those employee retention credits.
Okay, just to quickly echo what Alicia said, we certainly, she makes a great point, but there are also other types of employee credits that are available, workforce credits and other types of credits that will be available whether you're a nonprofit or for-profit entity. Nonprofit, as everyone knows, typically would not be responsible for any income tax liabilities, but all businesses are responsible for employee type taxes. So as she's pointed out, the best effort collectively between each of them, it would be to be sure you take advantage of any kind of employment tax credits that would exist to lower that obligation. The other area would be, especially for the small business folks, to take advantage of self-employment, retirement plans, items of that nature, which also are available to the nonprofit groups as well. So again, anything revolving around employees would benefit both. And one thing that the mayor mentioned, that 12/31 is certainly a hard deadline in terms of recognizing expenses. And, you know, it's always the thing, load up your expenses at year end to the extent you can afford them to minimize your tax liability, defer the revenues until the new year, you know, from a tax planning point of view. But when it comes to employee benefit plans and self-employee benefit, small business plans, self-employee plans, you do have until your tax filing date to put those plans. So if you are a private corporation, you really have until March 15th, you know, to take advantage of any additional sums of money you may have to take, you know, self-employment tax type of deductions. And we'll close with that.
Roderick?
One thing that I will add on the nonprofit side that is always a frustration is when nonprofit owners do not know the level of the 990 that they file. There are three. There's a 990N postcard, 990EZ, and then the full-blown 990. The other thing that nonprofits should be aware of is the date that their filing is due. The nonprofit tax return, which is really an informational return, as Mr. Brunson has said, they don't have to worry about corporate tax. It is due the 15th day of the 5th month after year end. And so if you're a calendar year end, that date is May 15th. But if you're a fiscal year end, it could be some other date. And so it's important that our nonprofit board members and EDs know what's their filing form and when their due date hits. Thank you.
Awesome. So all of you guys talked a lot about working with your CPA on the front end. What would you say to our small business owners that don't have the capital to have a CPA? What advice would you give them?
I think that's a great question, and I'm gonna jump in first, and I'll listen to the other CPAs. I would flip the equation and say, how do you not have the capital? How do you not have the funds? How do you not have the things necessary to do business? And having a good accountant, a good lawyer, a good marketing person is just as important as having some product on the shelves. And so having us on your team, you will find, you being the business owner, that it is an integral part of success. It is like walking with one leg. And so having us is a requirement.
Are you hearing me?
Well, we'll echo, it can't be said better than what Mr. Harvey just explained. I always chuckle when that question comes up because that's telling me that you aren't willing to invest in yourself. You know, it's like what level of, you want to invest in inventories, you invest in other payroll or other people, but are you not willing to actually invest in yourself by bringing the right professional, the type of professional to help you guide you through your processes? And that he kind of summed them up. In my view, that's your accountant, banker, lawyers, and to the extent marketing personnel. So, those are individuals that we strongly believe should be members of your team. And I always also remind people, McDonald's started somewhere, all right? All businesses started small. They grew certainly over time, but everyone started somewhere. So if you're believing in what you're doing, then take the time to invest in yourself and surround yourself with professionals to help you grow.
Thank you so much. There is a question in the chat, and the question is, for those that have not filed personal income taxes for whatever reason, how many years can persons go back to file that makes sense?
Okay, I'll take that. The statutes of limitation does not start until you file your taxes, point blank. So while the IRS may not go after you for like 10 years or so, if they believe that there is enough liability that exists, they can come after you once you have not filed that return. So my thing is the best to be in compliance than to worry about what will happen. Don't try to work on what would happen. I would say remain in compliance more than going to your bed uneasy.
You know, and I did want to mention something to that point. You know, that we have seen a lot with the EIDL, with the economic injury disaster loans. A lot of business, one of the requirements in order for you to be able to access these EIDL loans was that you needed to be a sustainable business. So if you came in red in 2019 and you didn't have any income, right, then the SBA is not going to award you a loan. You could potentially qualify for some of the grant, you know, the supplemental or the targeted grant program. But going back to, you know, to what Alicia was saying, you know, if you put everything as a deduction and you didn't have any income, you know, that has consequences. And then the banks are not going to lend you money. The SBA is not going to lend you money. And sadly, you know, we saw a lot of businesses where it was declined because they were not a sustainable business. So I just wanted to echo that's very important. I know they were talking about personal taxes, but I just kind of bumped that into the business as well, because if everything's a deduction and you're not a sustainable business, then who's going to lend you funds in order to be able to grow? So.
And I also want to put a caveat. The government does give you a standard deduction also. So if your income is below that standard deduction, which differs from year to year, then you're not even required to file. So you might still be in compliance, not filing, because your income is below the threshold for filing. So just to be aware of that also.
I feel compelled because the spirit of the question is great. If your 1040 is not filed, 4 of the organizations flow through. So your K1s, if you have a 1065 K1 from a 1120S, if you are a single member LLC, is not filed. So if you file the business return, so happened, and you haven't filed the 1040, then you haven't filed your reportings of business. And so I would tell somebody, and Mrs. Dunbar gave a great example, yeah, the statute of limitations has not started. And so you could be on the hook for that. And you may also have flow-through income that you're not reporting. And so we would suggest to anyone, please file your 1040 taxes as soon as possible for whatever year you have not filed.
I guess I'll close on the comment because it begins, I think it creates irony in that the overwhelming of personal returns, the traditional 1040, they actually have tax refunds due them and not tax liabilities. And that's what you will traditionally find in those circumstances, unless obviously these people have small business and other sources of income. And it's usually because if you're working for an employer, you know, taxes are typically taken out to satisfy tax liabilities. So again, when I've come across those circumstances, 3 out of 4 actually had refunds due them that they potentially forfeiting versus owing tax liabilities.
Okay, I have a question that I would ask on behalf of, I know some folks who do not file their taxes in the year that it's due, particularly those who believe that they are going to be getting a refund. And one of the reasons that I've heard of them doing that is that the IRS pays interest on the refund if it's not filed in the year that it's related to. How long can that practice go on before that individual finds himself in trouble with the IRS?
Well, I'll jump in to begin with. Non-filing returns also incur penalties non-filing penalties. So, you know, it's a risk in my mind to do, to have that practice, because if you don't file timely, the IRS can also levy a series of penalties because of your late filings. Again, all circumstances are different, but it's just best to be a timely tax filer to avoid, any kind of circumstances of that nature. I don't think the interest, provides any great value. It's typically would be offset by non-filing penalties and other items of that nature, other types of penalties, taking that sort of practice.
Okay, so I can just speak on that. Also, the person has 3 years in which to file their return, and because they have an overpayment for that tax year. That's what I'm assuming, based on the fact that they're definitely waiting for the interest to come in. So that by itself tells me it's an overpayment of taxes. And therefore, they believe that they're getting more interest from the IRS than they would have typically get from putting that money in the bank account and, to get that interest. But as I said, they have 3 years. And if they don't file within that 3 years, they lose their refund. So, that's just how it is. Now, that person might be an individual who is not a business owner, who doesn't need the money to turn over, return on investment type of thing. So it might be good for them to, partake in whatever they're doing there to get that interest from the IRS. It is not illegal. It is totally legal. Once you have overpaid your taxes, once you file, when you get your refund, the IRS do owe you money from the date it was due until the date you have received your refund. So it's not an illegal practice. It is definitely a legal practice. Now, in regards to could they have done better with that kind of money somewhere else? I'm quite sure they could have done better somewhere else, but to each its own.
One thing I wanted to add the discussion on is I think the question was, when will someone find themselves in hot water? What I found with folks is it's usually the things that I say go along the way. And so it may not be the IRS that's the trigger. And let me give you some examples that I have testimonials on. And so you or your child file for a student loan through the Department of Education. You or your child file with another agency through the Patriot Act. I think I may misquote it. They can pull from other departments. And so they pull and see, especially SSA, and see that you haven't filed. And so they ask you a question. Hey, what did you do in this year? We see, looks like you didn't file. That's where the things to me pop up. And of course, once that pops up, then the person is in a situation. Do you file it and generate penalties and interest? Or do you withdraw the application? How do you handle those situations? And so sometimes it's just the things in life that you're doing that you don't realize will trigger, right, the IRS to know now, or another department to know now that you haven't filed. And so again, as both other CPAs have said, and I will pile on top, it's just best to do it at the time that it should be.
Mayor Andrews.
Thank you. I have a question because this was asked of me also. We hear of the penalties to the businesses and the individuals, but if you have IRS and you have applied and there's a correction to be made and it's taken 3 and 4 years, who is responsible? When do we say, Mr. IRS, you owe me a response? Why are you taking 3 to 5 years? And it's creating additional problem because every year you try to file your taxes. If you don't resolve the previous 3 years amendments, then you are out in limbo. So can someone speak to that?
I can say for a fact that the IRS is definitely backed up. I'm sorry to say. I know for a fact there's almost 1 million returns that actually have not even been processed as yet, based upon information that I have received. So I know that the IRS definitely lagged where that is concerned. But one thing that they're doing differently now is now they're actually moving to a more electronic type system, especially when it comes on to the amendments, so that it doesn't require people interventionists to be able to process it. It will go to a processing system more efficiently. So they're doing their best to do whatever they can on that end. But I also heard that they're going to need at least 20,000 employees next year, because quite a few people are retiring from out of the system. So do I think it's going to get better? No. The only thing that I would recommend for them to do is to speak to a tax advocate, because the tax advocate is a department that's set up to deal directly on behalf of taxpayer with the IRS. And they should be able to get whatever issue that they have fixed through the tax advocate. Definitely, that would be my suggestion for them. Of course, they can hire us a CPA to come on in. We do have what is called a priority line, professional priority line. So we can get a little bit of a different preference, should I say, than the average taxpayer. But if, with what is happening now, especially since the whole COVID situation, just letting you know that we're going to expect to see more delays than what we're normally used to.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Joseph, we have
Yes?
a comment on the chat. I'm not sure if this turned out to be a question, but the person wrote this. Accountants are a good source of education to clients. Knowing everyone's dream of home ownership. Small business owners are coming to me to purchase a home, but they cannot show the income. They have taken so many write-offs to avoid paying taxes or to pay very little taxes. Any advice to this person?
And that's what I was saying to you, that we have to become bankable. That's what I was referring to as become bankable. Because on one end, you want to save on taxes, but on the other end, you're not bankable. So you have to definitely know what's in your best interest for whatever season of life that you're in, to be able to navigate through that process. And that person definitely need to have that conversation with their CPAs to let them know, this is where I'm going. This is a track that I'm planning to take. What do you recommend for me to be able to navigate this track? And we will definitely advise, based upon that.
I think that's so awesome, Ms. Dunbar. I want to quote something that Mr. Harvey said at the beginning. He said, when you sit with your CPA, you need to determine where you want to land. Do you want to show profits, or do you want to decrease your tax liability? I think that was very key for business owners, because as a small business owner myself, sometimes you're not thinking about that. You're just thinking, I don't want to pay more taxes, but you're not thinking about the question that was put in the chat. Eventually you want to buy a home, or another disaster, or a disaster coming, you need to get a loan. So I think this is very insightful information for our small business owners.
And that applies also to individuals, because if you're planning on buying a home, you got to show all those income. You do 2 and 3 jobs. That's reality for us. We do 2 and 3 jobs. So you have to report all of your income if you're looking to purchase a business or even to purchase a new home.
Well, and just to close on this, there's something called basis of accounting. You can have these deductions for tax purposes, and what everyone has said, I agree to and is correct. But what you can also do is show, try to demonstrate your ability to pay the loan, and you can look at what's discretionary in those tax returns and add it back to income, and to create a profile to show your ability to pay. I've had success with that, to show your ability to pay the obligation. It gets tricky, creates new steps, but let's just say you do the best you can for your tax, the tax side, and to minimize your tax obligation by proper planning and deductions. But again, if you don't need you can add back, Mr. Harvey mentioned earlier, if you did some big fixed asset purchase and it was $30,000 and you took the whole deduction, it's something like that you can add back to your income to show, you have the ability to pay. Those conferences that you could potentially deduct for business purposes, the trips to DC or across the country, and you create it because of some continuing education. I mean, you could potentially add back some discretionary deductions, discretionary spending to try to create more of an income profile. In my view, personal view, we'll get a little aggressive with taxes, maybe, uncomfortably aggressive for sometime. But, you always, in my view, want to take advantage of any deductions that may be available to you. Small business owners can add their family members as employees that are doing legitimate business. If they're answering phones and doing other things, why not put them as an employee of the business? That creates a deduction that's, again, becomes unnecessary. So, it's just a lot of tax planning aspects that kind of occur for a tax return that may be could be viewed as additional sources or add backs when you're going to get that bank loan or get some type of financing.
There's another question in the chat, but before I do that, everyone who's listening, there is information that we can share with you. It's not possible to share it in this forum, but if you would put your email in the chat, we would compile those emails and get that information to you within a day or two after this event. The question in the chat is and I don't know if this was asked before because I lost some reception along the way. Where can persons that speak a second language go to get assistance with filing their taxes, either personal or business?
They can definitely, the IRS have what is called a VITA program. And the only reason why I know about it, I also did in the past, volunteer to be a teacher for that program. And they do have people who speak other languages, and this is only for individuals. Unfortunately, this is only for individuals. For small businesses, you can definitely even ask someone that was a CPA. Because as much as you see us here, I know other CPAs who speak different languages, So you can just ask someone within, do you know of someone else that speaks Portugal or someone that speaks Spanish, and and if they don't know, they might can find someone else who knows someone else. Okay, so, and of course, which is always an option with the big, the big companies, they have it all, but that comes with a different price bracket.
Sorry, I was muted there for a minute. Okay, Mr. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Glenn. And just to let you know, my company does have someone on staff that speaks Spanish.
Oh, okay. That's good to know. Is there any other potential pitfall other than what we have identified that small businesses traditionally have the potential to face in dealing with their taxes?
I will bring up one pitfall that I've seen time and time again. I would imagine that Mr. Brunson and Ms. Dunbar has seen it again. It's this issue that relates to control. And you may say, Harvey, that's a very strong word. The issue revolves around whether the person is an independent contractor or an employee. And most times we see small businesses fall in the hole. I mean, the whole hole as it relates to independent contractors, because everybody wants to pay folks a flat check and not withhold the taxes. We've just seen millions, if not trillions of dollars rolled out, and how many people, right? Don't say amen. How many people could not get PPP money because they didn't have 941s, because they could not show bank statements that show payroll, real payroll being paid. I will go one step further. How many people may get in trouble because they falsified forms and under audit or review will not be able to hold up to show that real employees worked? And so that is a common hole. The hole is wide and the hole is deep. And every time I see someone going in the hole, I say, please hold up. But I find most often they fall right in the hole.
It is true. On that note, now you have the sole proprietor. Business is a sole proprietor, and what a number of people are doing now is that they're setting up LLCs. What advice would you give them in terms of that, in terms of filing their taxes? Because sometimes they get in trouble because they don't recognize that an LLC is designed to define the relationship between the participants in an LLC. If it's a single member LLC, fine, then that's okay, because they file one set of taxes and that takes care of that. But if it's more than one person involved, how do they navigate out of that situation and avoid getting into trouble?
Guys, I'm not sure where that question's going, but you just hit the point that if it's a one-member LLC, it's a disregarded entity, so it's a single return. If there are multiple members in the LLC, they must file a partnership tax return. The members share their earnings. But I would recommend creating an LLC versus doing a Schedule C or a sole proprietor. And the primary benefit, in my view, of the LLC is it creates that corporate barrier. If you file as sole proprietors or Schedule Cs, it opens up all your assets to potential liability from legal situations. If you create LLCs or S corps for your, under your business, it minimizes your exposure to other assets. It's in theory limited to whatever assets are owned by that LLC or S corp. So it does provide protection from a legal point of view, and we do encourage all our clients to either be an LLC or an S corp. But again, if there are multiple members, then you go to partnership tax returns versus individual tax returns. So you just got to know, what the benefits and how potentially it benefits your situation of the different corporate structures.
One of the beauty of an LLC when it comes down to partnership is that it gives the ability for what you consider a passive partner to be able to actually receive income without having to be subjected to the self-employment taxes. So that's one of the, I think that I've seen is that it gives that opportunity once you're not actively involved within that partnership to be able to receive income without having to pay the self-employment tax. It does also give the ability for the income to be allocated in any format, whichever how the partners agree to allocate the income. So there's a flexibility when it comes on to partnerships. I definitely wouldn't say a partnership is a bad structure. I would say it depends. So just as my comment on that.
Okay. At this point, what I would like to do is to have Ms. Fernandez from the SBA give us, because you hear a lot of complaints. Processing time is forever, etc. So I would like to, and I know that the SBA was one of the key operators in the PPP, in the EIDL, etc. So if you can address the small businesses in terms of what the SBA does, what are the requirements for it, what are the potential pitfalls for people looking to apply other than just the normal identifiable ones. Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you all. What a great conversation you guys have all had this evening. And I think if one thing, just kind of echoing what everyone has said, is speak to a professional. Speak to one of the professionals. They're going to be the ones that are going to be able to guide you and help you make that balance, what's best for you and for your business. Us at the SBA, we have resource partners. It's available to all the businesses at no cost. I put the link of our different local resource partners. You can find one closest to your area. And so that is super, super important. And we saw that a lot, as I had mentioned, with, and they alluded to it as well with the PPP, with the 1099s, and a lot of people weren't able to get, their businesses weren't able to get the benefits because they weren't filing correctly, or they weren't doing, they weren't planning their business correctly. So definitely don't want to see that, because the reality is that, we know that small businesses are the backbone of our country, really. And so speaking a little bit to EIDL, the program does come to an end now on December 31st. So, but what does that actually mean? So if you have not yet applied, the last day for you to apply will be December 31st. I would not recommend that you wait until that day if you haven't already applied, okay? For these small businesses that already applied last year and are looking for an EIDL increase, your loan is not going to be affected, right? So we will continue to process that loan as long as the funds are available. And from what I have been told, I don't have an exact number, but the funds should be available for another couple months. We still had a couple $2 billion 3 weeks ago when I checked, and so they haven't given us the new numbers just yet. And so the economic injury disaster loan, also known as EIDL, it is a loan that has to be paid back, okay? And the way that the SBA it's at a 3.75 over a 30-year term. You're never going to get a loan like that, right? Unless you're financing a house. It's a really, really good loan. And it's a 24-month deferment. So you do not have to start paying back that loan until 24 months from the day that you originally got that loan. Now, there are a couple of requirements for those that are not aware. You do have to have filed taxes, as we've been talking about. You do have to, you need to be a viable business. You have to have made income. The taxes that the SBA is looking at is your 2019 taxes. Okay, so what, because that was pre-pandemic, right? Pandemic happened May of 2020. I'm sorry, March of 2020. So they're looking at your full year of 2019. Now, that's not to say that if you had, you know, a year of growth, something happened in the business that is explainable as to why that income, you know, was limited or non-existent. It is up to the loan officers at the end of the day for them to make that, but they do have some discretion where they can look at your 2018 taxes. Okay, there you do so the business has to be viable, right? And then they are also looking at your credit score. At a minimum, you have to have a 570 credit score for anything less up to $500,000. If your business is going to ask for more than $500,000, then you do have to have a credit score of 625, and there's some other collateral that comes into play at that time. And so what I have seen, so the majority of the loans, the run-of-the-mill loans as we know it, have actually been processed. There are probably about 15%, I would say, of loans that are in what we call reconsideration. So I want to talk a little bit about the process of what happened. So the first go around, all businesses were able to get up to $150,000, right? The reality was that for that first go around, there wasn't a lot of checking as far as from the SBA. It was really, you know, if you know, it was based on, you know, what you put in your application. There was just not a lot of fact checking at that point. You know, the SBA went ahead and gave a lot of these different businesses, based on the numbers that they put on their application, these loans. Now, the second go around, when the EIDL loan was increased up to $500,000, and then on October 8th up to $2 million, now it is a different process. So a lot of people get very frustrated. They're like, but you have all this information. Well, a couple things. The reality is the way that the system works, they don't retain a lot of that information. So the same loan officer that approved you the first time is not going to be the loan officer that you're going to get the second time. And it's a lot of fact checking. Sadly, 70% of all the loans that we do get are fraudulent, right? There's something there, right? Sometimes maybe it's you put more on your application that you should have, right? And so there's a threshold of a 20% that the SBA will allow, but anything over that, then they're going to question the integrity of the business. And so it's going to go through a much more thorough process. We do have a new customer service team. I'm going to go ahead and put that number up. And so what I'll speak to is that the last thing that I did want to mention is that those businesses that are in a reconsideration process, I understand that it is extremely frustrated. I work with these businesses every day, trying to help them understand where they're at and where they're going and what's going on with their loan. And so if any of these flags, you know, have been, for whatever reason, put on the file, it's a special fraud team that does do a very thorough investigation, and it takes time. I'm probably seeing about 6 months in this reconsideration process. The other thing that I will mention is the 4506Ts, which are now required for the applicant to fill out. It is extremely, extremely important that when the applicant is filling out that 4506T, that they have their filed 2019 taxes right next to them. And exactly, it's almost like a photocopy is what I tell everyone. If you wrote out apartment in your 2019 taxes, then I want you to write out apartment in the 4506T. I don't want you to abbreviate it. I want you to write it exactly as you put it in your original. I've seen 4506Ts decline from the IRS, basically telling us that taxes do not exist, and yet the business owner has actually uploaded the taxes, so we know that they're there. The IRS has told us that they do, you know, they could not be found, and it was a difference of them putting suite and they had put the number sign. to give you an example. So it is extremely important that when you're filling out that 45016 that you can reach out to your accountant. A lot of times accountants are the ones that are filling that out and making sure that what you filed in your 2019 is exactly what you're putting for that 45016. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to mention. Oh, it is very important. The last two things that I'll mention is your account, your bank account. Changing your bank account information is an extremely big deal. I know that some banks have merged. I know that some of them, it's not the applicant, but sadly, it does make the application go very, very slow. It's really a system issue. I've seen, unfortunately, applications where it's been changed and then somehow it is still wrong when it goes to get dispersed. And so it is very frustrating. So, if you can avoid changing your bank, that would be a huge recommendation. And the last recommendation that I will make is your email. So actually, there's one more recommendation that I do have to make, is your email address. Whatever email address that you apply with is the email address that you are going to have to stick to. Changing that email address is like changing a bank account. It is a way of us preventing fraud. So it's a big deal and takes a lot of time. And there was one more thing that I did want to mention, and now I kind of forgot. Does anyone have any questions? I haven't seen any questions on the chat. But I'm going to go ahead and put our South Florida inbox. I do check that inbox regularly. Probably within 3 to 4 days, you will get a response, sometimes sooner. So I'll leave that as a resource to any business owners, any potential idle loan that you have. Oh, that was the last thing that I was going to mention is that if you're going to be asking for an increase, do not reapply. Do not reapply. Reapplying puts your loan in question, right? And so a lot of people don't understand this, and they'll go ahead and they reapply that they had 2 or 3 loans, and so they're in this stuck situation. And so until that kind of gets flushed out and all those loans that are duplicates almost get like erased from the system, it's a little bit timely. So that's my piece.
Thank you.
Okay. Does any one of the presenters have any closing statements that they would like to make?
Tony Brunson, we welcome all members we have monthly newsletters that address taxes and other financial matters. So we're willing to allow all attendees to, if you send your information over, we'll be sure that we add you to our newsletters. And for Ms. Fernandez, if I may ask a question, there's one question I had regarding the EDI, the emergency loans. I was told that you had to have a reduction in income to apply for a new loan. Is that true or untrue?
That is not true. So, sorry, I was just replying to some of the questions that they sent me on the chat. So there, besides the economic injury disaster loan, there are 2 grant programs. Okay, when you apply for the economic injury disaster loan, you basically get invited to attend or participate. So let me just bring that up really quickly to make sure that I sometimes swap them off. So essentially, for the supplemental, you do have to show a 30% reduction, right? So both the supplemental and the targeted are grants. You do not have to pay that money back. The supplemental is $10,000 and the target is an additional $5,000. So it's up to $15,000 potentially that the business can get approved for. Now, for the $10,000 for the supplemental, the first thing is that, for the targeted, they have to show a 30% reduction, right? So they have to throw a 30%, and they cannot have more than 300 employees. But more importantly, they have to be in a specific zone. So it's location. So a lot of the area in Hialeah, there's certain locations that, and I can put that on the chat. so that you can look at your business. And if your business is in that location, then potentially you can qualify. And the way that you would go ahead and apply for that is you would have to apply for EIDL, and then you would be invited to partake in that in the supplemental and the targeted. And so with the supplemental, then you have to have 50% reduction, and then you cannot have more than 10 employees, but you also have to be in that map area. So I'll go ahead and I'll put that up. But for the regular item, for the regular increase, no, you don't have to show a reduction. We're already assuming that most businesses had a decline in 2020 because of COVID, right? So your 2019 tax is what's going to show your full flourishing hope in the year. And the last thing that I will say is that the way that they calculate that amount, because sometimes businesses are not, they look at the net, right? So after all your deductions, what did that business make, right? Whatever that number is, they multiply it by 2, and that is the total amount of the loan that you potentially can be, that you can get with the SBA.
Thank you.
All right, I think.
Awesome.
Okay. Roderick, anything? Alicia? If there's no more, nothing else that you want to close out with, I want to thank everyone on the line for participating and for being a very active and absorbing audience. To the presenters, I want to thank you very much for the, always answering the call to service that we reach out and make. To the elected officials on board in the city of Lauderdale Lakes, with whom we've had a very long, and I'm speaking on behalf of the organizations that I represent now, we've had a very long, strategic, cohesive relationship over the years. We appreciate the We Care City, and of course, what can we say about the mayor? She's everybody's darling. Just don't get her mad. But Ms. Fernandez, a special thank you to you, because I think that the SBA, everybody loves the SBA until they love to hate the SBA. But with large bureaucracies, we understand what happens at that time. Roderick, once again, you answered the bell. Tony, thanks so much for being a part of this. And on behalf of the chamber members, I want to tell you, look out for stuff, because come January, we're going to be going into another series of workshops that will keep providing information to the citizens in the areas that we service. And I'm going to pass it back now to the Honorable Mayor to close us out. Thank you. On behalf of Nathel and myself, we want to thank you as moderators for being a very captive audience.
Hey,
Thank you guys so much.
and let me say thank you to our moderators. You guys did an awesome job and could not do it without you. And the call to action is always going to be there, because whenever I think of something and it's in the best interest of the city of Lauderdale Lakes, I'm going to share and create partnerships. So can't do it without having good friends and good resources in the community and knowing how to identify those resources. That's what we are supposed to do as elected official. Did my staff, Vielka, brag on some of the resources that we're going to share with our businesses or have been engaging our businesses in? So at this time.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Bianca,
For those
before you go,
audience, I'm sorry?
Bianca, before you go, because I may not have the opportunity after you've given it, I want to express our gratitude to the staff, the technical staff of the City of Lauderdale Lakes, for always delivering the kind of service that we can be proud of. Thank you. Go ahead, Bianca.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to take that too. Thank you.
Can't do it
I
alone.
was Audrey and Kurt and everybody. We say thank you. So the city of Lauderdale Lakes is committed to fostering and creating an economic environment that will sustain existing businesses. For this reason, we continue to create and support initiatives that promote and strengthen our businesses. Just recently, the city of Lauderdale Lakes launched the second cycle of accepting applications for the Business Rent and Utilities Assistance Program, as well as the Safe and Clean Restaurants Assistance Program, an initiative spearheaded by our Mayor Rogers. Both programs are funded by the American Rescue Plan and was designed to provide financial assistance in the form of a grant to businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic. Eligible businesses can receive up to $20,000 in financial aid to cover expenses such as past due rent, mortgage, operating expenses, and some business supplies that relate to COVID-19. Safe and Clean Restaurant Assistance Program is also created to assist local food establishments and restaurants. And we assist them with payments of the maintenance, such as walls, floors, deck surfaces, furniture, fixtures, equipment needed in the business, and cleaning supplies and everything that has to do with COVID-19. For the Safe and Clean Restaurant Assistance Program, we are asking the applicants to attend a 30-minute session related to customer service and complete their application. Who are eligible? The businesses that are actually located in Lauderdale Lakes and have a current business tax receipt. Those businesses that have 25 employees or fewer, including the business owner. Businesses that must be able to verify that they had some revenue loss in the past year or 2 years. So we're going to ask for your tax return, your 2019 and your 2020. On a case-by-case basis, we may also ask for additional documentation, financial statements probably. And nonprofit organizations are eligible to participate. For more information, you can visit our website at lauderdalelakes.org or give us a call at 954-535-2492, or just come to our offices. We are in the permitting center here in the Lauderdale Lakes Municipal Complex. We're here from Monday to Thursday from 8 o'clock in the morning to 3:30 in the afternoon. And with that being said, Madam Mayor, the time is yours.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Vielko. Always a pleasure working with staff on behalf of our businesses. And special thanks to Dwight for always being there and making things happen. Yes, you deserve that. Really, thank you very, very, very much. And I think I see my colleague, she's still online, Commissioner Beverly. Thanks. Yeah, that's what we do. We value our staff and they deliver for our community and for our businesses. And I know my city manager is listening in. I got the text. I hear you. And thank you very much, CM, for always joining even on the quiet. All right. So thank you all for participating. I know we have this event recorded. We will share it continuously. And I know our businesses will benefit from it. So thank you for imparting and for sharing. And just know, Lauderdale Lakes is on the move. Just watch our dust. When the dust lifts, you will see what we're doing here in the We Care city of Lauderdale Lakes. Thank you all for joining and have a happy holidays. Have fun with family and COVID or whatever that new variant is. I refuse to name it. You are not coming back. We are going forward with our businesses and our lifestyle and our vacations and loving and hugging on each other. Enjoy. Happy holidays, everyone. And thank you all.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you all. Take care.
Beverly, you know that hug. I don't have my gavel, so you got to help me here. Thank you. Good
Good night,
night.
all.
Good night.